Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
Oil prices are up. Consumer spending slows. Housing market remains psychotic and melting down. Small businesses report ongoing cost pressures. Israel expands military operations.
Yes, I can.
China warns over Taiwan. U.S. Supreme Court hears major case on federal agency power. Major cyber attack disrupts healthcare. Driverless cars malfunctioning. Social media challenges sending people to the hospital. SPLC promoting hate. We're just getting started. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. I'm Sam Bushman with a lot of hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use. Thanks for being alongside for the ride. Hopefully it'll be educational and entertaining. And here to break down the Honest Money Report today with me, Heath Perkins, well-known leader at freewatercoinco.com. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, Sam. It's good to be back.
There's so much to discover, so little time. Let's start out with the current reality. Where's gold sitting, sir?
Gold's at $47.21 and 30 cents, and silver is sitting at $75.74.
47.21. What is it again?
47.21 and 30 cents.
30. Okay.
And silver's at $75.74.
75, 74. What's the ratio between the two now then?
About 62.
Okay, so it's a lot better than it's been, folks, but compared to what it ought to be, it's still way out of whack. Why do you think silver and gold have bounced down from their highs a little bit, Heath? Are people having more confidence, or do you think just the big wave is done, or people can't get metals? What's the story?
It's a little bit of a conundrum to all of us because we're usually in a war. You'll see silver and gold jump. Usually when you see the oil insecurity around the world, you'll see silver and gold jump. Historically, the last major events you saw back into the 50s with oil and the struggle we had with oil, you always see gold and silver move. And so now that that's contrary, it's again a bit of a conundrum. The idea of why we feel we're more certain when we're just adding more and more debt to our balance sheet due to this war, and the cost that this war is going to, it's continually adding up. Like it doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, a little bit unknown on this one.
The only thing that does make sense, in my opinion, on this headline says oil prices rise above $90 again per barrel on Middle East tensions. I mean, that makes some sense. Except for we, the United States, don't get any oil from there, do we?
I don't know.
As far as I understand, we don't get any oil from there. We produce enough ourselves and can get it other places and everything. We don't need the Strait of Hormuz for oil for the United States. But they say the global price keeps going up. And I guess I'm saying, why internally, if we create our own oil, why does it mean prices have to go up? I don't really understand that part. But nevertheless, hey, you know what? I don't think the Straits of Hormuz are going to be resolved anytime soon. Donald Trump told us weeks ago that he decimated them so bad they couldn't come out of reality. And now they're basically able to literally stop boats and attack boats and this and that. And where's all this coming from? But now they say, hey, we don't expect gas prices to fall till later 2027 range at best. And then they even say further, even when the Straits of Hormuz gets, quote, worked out, if you will, that it'll take 6 months to make sure there's no clay mines under the sea there. So even that, when we get it resolved, it'll be a long time. And then now they're saying, well, it'll never be the same in the Straits of Hormuz again because you can never trust what comes day to day. If the Iranians have that much control and that much power, we must have underestimated their power. And so the Straits of Hormuz can never be trusted again. We better plan on different supply routes. This is an insane reality looking forward, economically speaking, Heath.
Oh yeah, no, and it's not just oil that comes out of that. Like there was a list that my mother-in-law was reading to me the other day about 60 different worldwide used items that come out of there not just the oil itself, but these all are going to affect everyone. And you've already heard about lockdown, or I've already heard about lockdowns in Australia. They're called energy lockdowns. Individuals to be doing certain things. In North Korea or South Korea has very heavily been hit as well. They have mandatory 1 day a week government staff.
You know what? You're breaking up a little bit there, Heath.
You're breaking up
What
a
this
little bit there,
reminds
Heath.
me
Reminds
of
me of
is
is
literally
literally
third world
third world
countries.
countries.
You get
You
this
get this kind of stuff
where in Venezuela or Cuba or who knows where, Guatemala, whatever. They have these things where it's like, oh, we only have power's on 3 hours per day, or you can use your water and plumbing 2 hours per day, or you can this and that. We're starting to see that kind of stuff in first world countries going on now, right?
Oh yeah, it's getting bad. The sad part was that there's a new player on the block. I think it's called the International Energy Agency, the IEA, and they had set rules for some of these nations already, like New Zealand and Australia, that if there was an energy issue like this, they already had kind of the playbook as to what to do moving forward. And so another international agency that seems to be an elected group that's kind of dictating to a lot of these nations in regards to energy. So funny that play was in place, a couple of years ago, put in place. I think it was 24. So it's just been interesting to see. Is this something that is another form of, let's cause more control in the world, because it seems like the Strait of Hormuz, like you're saying, shouldn't affect us here in the U.S., but we're seeing all of our, fuel prices go up. I'm paying over
and it sounds like the EIEIO song, but really it's IEA, this international agency. What would make them, put this kind of stuff in place unless they expected energy turmoil in the future like this? The conspiracy side of us goes, that's very strange indeed. But it gets worse because we mentioned yesterday, even condoms are being affected now by the war. They say the costs are going to go up 20 to 30%. Now we find out that consumer spending slows as credit card debt hits record high. Households are pulling back on, quote, discretionary spending, while total credit card debt reaches historic levels. That alone has big concern. Then you add to that this headline: housing market remains constrained by high mortgage rates. Elevated mortgage rates and limited, quote, inventory, meaning not enough housing. People don't think 30 million illegals needing housing has any effect on it, but it does. That continues to suppress home sales and what they call affordability, Heath.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things to talk on those topics. The housing one has been interesting because recently I have a niece who's getting married, and we're going to do an Airbnb with all the out of state family members, and the amount of entire homes, like full homes, that are on Airbnb completely taken out of the market, no longer available in the market, just rental homes, was astounding when I was going through that. The homes that will never again be put back on the market because they're a rental property. Airbnb has changed the scenario, and a lot of people who've had, parents pass away, the boomer generation is starting to pass. They inherit these homes. They don't want to sell it because they can make the rental income on it, because these houses are usually paid off. By
the way, the rental income way exceeds what would be a normal mortgage payment, or if you were to sell it even on terms with interest. They're able to make more money from the rentals than they would be even if they were to sell the house on term.
Yeah, exactly. So the incentive to push these to rental properties is huge, and I was astounded by how many full homes, not just a room here or basement apartment there or something like that, full homes are on Airbnb, which are no longer going to be available as counted as inventory in the open market for the housing industry. So
The
yeah,
other problem is that decimates neighborhoods completely, because even if I want to move somewhere, one of the first things that I'm going to do is go, hey, how many homes in my neighborhood? Let's say there's 90 homes in an area that I'm in, considered the neighborhood or the subdivision or whatever word you want to call it. And then I kind of say, okay, how many of those are Airbnbs? Because, man, I don't want to live in the middle of 25 Airbnbs. Everybody will just be partying all night long and having it whatever because they're all on vacation. It's not the neighborhood I want. It doesn't do well for my church congregation. It doesn't do well to me neighbors necessarily. That alone will have Heath respond to that in seconds. FreeWaterCoinCo.com. The Honest Money Report continues in seconds on Liberty Roundtable
Attention
Live.
collectors and savvy investors. We are excited to announce a momentous evolution in our journey. Introducing Free Water Coin Company, formerly known as Rust Coin and Gift. This rebranding takes us back to the very roots of where it all began. Free Water, Oregon. It's a tribute to the legacy of Al Rust and a celebration of 3 generations of dedication to excellence in the world of coins and precious gifts. Al, Brian, and Jake Rust standing strong through 64 years of service. Discover a world of exceptional service at Free Water Coin Company, your premier destination for genuine, honest money and precious gifts. Under Brian's expert guidance, Free Water Coin Company, building on the legacy of Rust Coin and Gift, continues its tradition of trust and excellence. Visit us at our Provo, Utah location. Explore our treasures online at freewatercoinco.com or call us at 801-377-1574. Free Water Coin Company, where your future is built one honest coin at a time.
Are you watching what's happening in our country and asking, what can I do? Join the John Birch Society in Salt Lake City, June 6th, for a powerful one-day conference. The day includes a host of respected speakers, 2 meals, and meaningful connections. You'll gain clarity on the issues and walk away with practical steps you can take to your community. Reserve your seat today at jbs.org/SLC26. That's jbs.org/SLC26.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. So you've got oil prices going up. You got gold and silver in a very strange, way high, but not as high as it's been pattern. You've got consumer spending slowing as credit cards are out of control. Households are pulling back on discretionary spending. Housing market remains super tight for a variety of reasons. Heath Perkins with me. We're talking about freewatercoinco.com and the Honest Money Report. And I just asked right before the break to Heath about this. You know, you've got these neighborhoods that are Airbnbs big time, but yet who wants to live in the neighborhood where everybody's just partying and on vacation, not really a real neighbor, Heath?
Yeah, no, it's starting to look more like how neighborhoods have kind of gone in direction with social media. Like, we don't really know our neighbors much anymore. And I think moving forward, that is going to be a key resource for all of us, is to get to know our neighbors. Get to know who has what, who can help who in which ways. We're going to start being more reliant upon those that are closest to us, and not necessarily, like with social media, have this massive group of friends that are nowhere even near our location. We have hundreds of friends, but they're all around the world. So why do I need to get to know my neighbors? Because I have all my friends online. This is going to change. Like, we're going to start seeing, more struggles. The economy's not getting any better. I mean, besides the defense sector ramping up right now, which puts us again in more debt. So the same thing with the Airbnbs. Like, I don't want to be in a neighborhood where it's all Airbnbs, because I don't get to know my neighbors, and those individuals that show up might be fun and good people, for a night or two, but that's all it is. It's not a consistent neighbor that would be able to help you out in a pinch.
Well, and the problem is we've got all these groups in America now, these whatever you want to call them, terrorist cells or gangs or whatever. And when I have a neighborhood that's stable, that's quiet, that I know my neighbors, people come and go, but you see when there's somebody not from around there, they stick out like a sore thumb. It becomes very obvious, and it's very hard for them to penetrate the neighborhood and do a lot because, hey, people are on the alert going, hey, we've never seen this guy before. But when you have Airbnbs to where there's new people rolling in and leaving and coming and going in every day and you never know who's who, and pretty soon it becomes a neighborhood watch security crisis, to say the least. Heath.
Oh yeah, no, definitely agree. You don't know the individuals coming through. They're not necessarily doing a lot of vetting when it's about making an extra dollar on these things, and so you might have individuals who have accounts that have had history, but you might have new individuals that show up and they don't, and Airbnb doesn't flag necessarily anyone because they're in it for the profit. So you don't know who's kind of coming in and out of the neighborhoods anymore, and that's not helpful, especially if criminals aside, I'm more concerned about pedophiles in a sense. In my mind, the worst criminal, which can really do some damage for years and years and years down the road.
Well, and pedophiles that are temporarily there are even worse.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, do they have rules where they can't rent anywhere near a school? But they do. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of this, but it's just Airbnbs in neighborhoods, which are just out of control right now. It was insane when I was looking at all those homes that were full homes again, that were for rent, in all these neighborhoods all across northern Utah, and you don't know who's coming in and out of those. But it doesn't help the neighborhood, and that's what you and I are kind of getting at here. Is it's not a large benefit to the neighborhood, but it's also individuals who've inherited these homes from parents who've passed away and whatnot, or just investors outside of the state that do this, because Utah's kind of a hot spot right now for tourist travel and great economy and everything else. A lot of people want to come here and visit, so it's been interesting to kind of go down this rabbit hole and kind of see the side effects that are coming from Airbnb that we didn't really think about when it first happened, because it was a great option for people to gain a little bit of extra money off of their home. Because it used to be just like a room.
In the gig economy, everybody's got to try to bring in whatever revenue streams they can. But you think about the individual level. We've talked about the international level, the oil, the gold, But think about small businesses now. They're reporting what are called ongoing cost pressures. Rising wages, sometimes even forced by minimum wage mandates by government, but rising wages, rent, supply costs, all continue to squeeze margins for small to mid-sized businesses. That's a big thing too, Heath.
Oh yeah. The one thing that I do when people come in that are newer and whatnot to the shop, younger generation, college students and younger, I try to give them a little bit of an education. And so in 1964, minimum wage was $1.25, and if you had that $1.25 in those silver quarters, right now that $1.25 would be worth $67.62. That was minimum wage.
Wow.
That was the equivalent of minimum wage. That's about $135,000 a year salary was minimum wage back then.
Yeah, because when they compare and adjust for inflation, they adjust the increased costs of goods and services, but they don't track the real value of an honest money, gold or silver piece in relation to the fall of the dollar, in relation to the increased dollars it would take for inflation. They don't put all the math in there is the point. They use kind of girl math, Heath.
Exactly. And then they continue to substitute additional things in there, because when the CPI was created back in the 80s, it had steak in there. Now it has hamburger, which
pretty
is not
soon it's going to have cat food in there.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I mean?
Or bug food. Yeah, but $135,000 is the equivalent of minimum wage in 1964, earning those 5 silver quarters an hour compared to today. That's how ridiculous our money has gotten. The reason that we have to, I think you call it the gig economy.
Yeah, that's what they call it, the gig economy, which means I got to have 46 jobs to survive. I'm doing okay though, and everybody's employed. Yeah, we all have 20 jobs.
Yeah, so there was a good perspective that I was given. There's a guy who created a comparison between 1930, which was the worst year of the Great Depression, and it was 2024 when he did this, and he refers to us being in a silent depression. The comparison, the median wage in 24 was 55,000. The median wage in 1930 was 85,000. The average it took for that median wage to buy a home was 3 years back then, and it was.
But hold on, when you say 85,000 in 1930, you're saying if we were to use similar dollar, in other words, reality
Yes,
dollars
conversion.
in our
Yeah.
world, it's being translated or normalized to our world to understand,
Yeah, based upon inflation
and it's
stuff.
based
he
on buying
adjusted it.
power, right?
Yep. So $85,000 was the median wage from in today's equivalent in 2024's equivalent dollars. So 85,000 compared to the 55,000 it is in our time. The 55,000 it took 10 years to buy the median home price in our time, and back in 1930 it took that 85,000 3 years to buy their median house.
And then in an equivalent reality, since we pay so much more taxes, it used to be that one person could work, handle the taxes, take care of those things. Now it takes two people to go ahead, and one person pretty much pays the taxes. The other person pretty much supports the family. So it's now taking two people even to compensate for a lot of that because of the taxes. If you normalize that into the mix, you're probably even double that.
Yeah, gets worse there. Their tax rate was less. He went into a few other things, but ultimately he came out of it saying, hey, yeah, they were there was 25% unemployment back then, but and they were underemployed. We are overemployed. Like, even with the extra side gigs that we have, like, we can't keep up with those numbers. We can't even keep up with 1964's minimum wage numbers.
And part of the reason is because when we say they were underemployed, yeah, but many of them lived on farms or in small towns where they could trade and barter and have their own groceries and a lot of the different things that they have now. We don't have any of that because we just have to go to the Walmart every day, and as a result, then we have to have money for those things they didn't have to have money for then.
Yeah, a great example. I had a lady that used to come into a sporting goods store that I used to work at, and she would buy a box of 22 ammo shells every single week. And I was just like, this is, ma'am, I just have to ask the question, like, what was this for? Your grandkids go shooting a lot with you? Or, she's like, no, but my dad was a fur trapper back during the Great Depression, and we had a dirt floor in our little, cabin, but we had doctors show up at our door. And they would trade for 22 ammo shells. We had every bit of our needs taken care of at that time due to, my dad having 22 ammo shells. So yeah, a lot of trade, a lot of farms. People don't realize that once World War II finished, our society really shifted into the neighborhoods that we see now, because usually people still...
Yeah, Victory Gardens turned into Walmart.
Yeah. They never had grocery stores like they do now. They never had these things. Like, people lived on their family's property, but now it gave the option for fairly anyone at that point to move into the suburbans and to have a track home and to have because back then one wage could buy a house, buy 2 cars, buy a cabin, have a month's summer vacation. So all those things were available back then when they first came out of World War II. But the erosion of our dollar has just got us to where we're at now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we don't mean to be negative. We do mean to give you an honest money report. Your great super hedge is constitutional currency, gold and silver. Heath Perkins with freewatercoinco.com can take care of you. Talk to them. They've got ideas and solutions a little bit over a long period of time. Makes a lot of difference. Thanks, Heath.
You're welcome.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, oil prices going up. Interest rates staying high. Credit cards, not the answer. But more and more Americans are being forced to pull back. Our prayers are for the economy, especially before the midterms, right? God save our constitutional republic.